Let's start by examining the first layout called stack layout. This type of layout organizes elements in a one-dimensional stack either horizontally or vertically, and is typically used to organize a subsection of the graphical user interface on a page. Let's take a look at this layout in a new project. To do this, let's proceed to create a new project. Let's select the .NET Maui template, and we will name the project Stack Layout Demo. Once the project has been created, we will proceed to create a new page as part of this project. Let's right-click on Add New Element. From the .NET Maui category, select a content page in XAML format and name it Stack Layout Demo. Once we have created this new content page, we're going to indicate that we want to start the application with this page. For it, we have to go to app.xaml.cs, and we're going to replace this page with Stack Layout Demo, which is the new page that we have created. And this is how the application looks like with the new page that we have created. If we go back to the Explorer and we see this page that we have created, we can see that it has been created as part of this content page, an element type stack layout, which is precisely the first type of layout that we're going to talk about. This type of layout, as I mentioned before, stacks the different elements that are located within this layout. Let's copy this label element, for example, and let's paste the element once again. With the changes applied, we can see that we have a second element that has been stacked as I mentioned before. Let's proceed to change the background color of each of these labels elements. For example, let's apply a color Alice Blue to our first label. And we're going to change to our second label the property background color for a color, for example, dark blue. We can see how each one of these labels elements that have been stacked, as I have mentioned, as part of this stack layout looks like. To do some tests, let's proceed to copy once again the label element. Let's paste it 3 more times. Let's change the background color to dark red. Let's change the other background color to dark cyan, for example. And to the last element, we assign a color, for example, brown. Okay, here we have each of these elements that have been stacked as part of the stack layout. We also have the option to change the orientation of the different elements that are part of the stack layout. By default, the elements are being stacked vertically, but we could also stack them horizontally. We're going to assign for it a property that is part of the stack layout that is called orientation. Let's change the property to horizontal, and we see how the elements have been stacked in a horizontal format. In this way, we can then change the orientation of the different elements. Let's remove this property to leave the elements in a vertical format. And as part of the different elements in the XAML file, we have a property called vertical options, and we have also a property called horizontal options, which will allow us to modify how the different elements are going to be positioned with respect to the layout or the page in which we are. For example, we can modify the vertical options property of this stack layout, which will allow us to specify where this stack layout is going to be located specifically. We can indicate that, for example, we want to place the stack layout right in the center. And look how simply we have indicated that we want the stack layout located vertically right in the center. By default, each of these elements has no spacing. If we would like to assign some spacing between each of the elements as part of the stack layout, we also have a property called spacing, which we can modify to alter this spacing between the different elements. In the preview, we see precisely this spacing that we have indicated between each of these elements. Now, as part also of each of the elements of the stack layout, we can assign where each of these labels controls will be placed individually. How can we do it? Well, using the same property, but in each one of the controls. For example, if we wanted to modify where this first element is going to be located, we see that we're using the vertical options property and the horizontal options property to specify where we want to place this element or this control as part of the stack layout. We can indicate that we want to place this label element in a different location. Here we have different options that we can select. For example, let's indicate that we want to place the element at the beginning of the stack layout. And with this, what has happened is that precisely this element label has gone to the beginning of the stack layout. We have some additional values, as for example, this value center that we have already seen what it is used for, to position the elements in the center. We could also place the elements at the end of the stack layout, and with this, the element would be pushed to the right. We also have a set of values that end with the term and expand, and that term refers to the fact that we are going to place one of the elements, for example, in the center, and this word or this term that says and expand means that we're going to try to occupy the available space, if there is any, so that all that space is filled. For example, we could indicate that we want to fill all the space and expand it with this label element. If we look at the preview, we see how this element has indeed been pushed to fill all the space that was available as part of the stack layout, although the text only uses some of this space we have available. If we were to do the same for its vertical options, we will indicate fill and expand. And with this value, look how the label is occupying all the space that is available, all that space that is not using the other elements, because we are indicating that we want to fill precisely all that space with this label element, although the text content is only using a small portion, but the entire control as such is using all the space. And this is how we can work with this layout element called stack layout.